Hello and welcome to the Friday Fun Show. Working title, around the NFL's guide to Week 14, perhaps more. I don't know. I don't know how the hell this is going to go today. I'm Dan Hanzus. I got a cat a feral cat snuck into the prison and climbed right across Mark's work desk. So that's good. It seems like the penal colony is letting felines in now, so that's cool. Marc Sessler, Gregg Rosenthal, the great Rachel Bonnetta. What's up, everybody?
This is my favorite part of the Friday Fun Show is watching Mark's face when the cat gets too close. This is utter aggravation.
I am dealing with a small amount of space, so there isn't a lot of room for the cat to roam.
Well, those are the consequences for your actions on the outside. Like you trade in space.
I'm willing to accept,
and the right to vote.
I will say, you guys, since I've been coming on this pod and talking about people reaching out via jail messenger, the message requests have skyrocketed. I messaged you guys a couple of weeks ago, actually with screen grabs. More kept flowing in. So I need you guys to know there are people in jail that listen to this podcast.
That's incredible.
Highest rated jail podcast. I don't know where they're getting it. I don't know if they're listening through the toilet, but it's out there.
that fills me with like so much pride. I mean, that for the first time in my life, I feel like I have some edge because I'm the host of a show that's listened to in prison.
Absolutely, you do. Where else would these requests come in from? They like trickle in once every few months. But then since I've started talking about it, since Mark has gone to said jail, just the requests have just been flying off the shelves.
Have you corresponded with any of these?
No,
mostly males that in jail.
No, okay. But I do Google their names, and it is frightening to read about.
Any hotties? Any like sneaky backdoor hotties?
Sure, all of them. I'm going to say nice things about all of them because I'm not sure how long they're going to be in jail for. But
very smart.
Some of them are scary and have done frightening things.
So here's the cool thing about the Friday Fun Show. If you've never listened to it before, yes, you get an insight into Mark's prison life. Do you have a cat, by the way, Mark? Is that what's going on?
No. I do not know. I'm watching someone's cat while they're away currently.
Okay.
So it's not mine.
The cat was also there multiple weeks ago too, right?
Yeah, but
Greg, it keeps on getting more mysterious.
I would not even know how to purchase a cat. So I can promise you, it's just it's a chore that I'm
in a back alley.
Yeah.
Yes, the Friday Fun Show is a live stream. It's a podcast, of course, but right now at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern, 5 or something in England and the surrounding territories. We are connected with our listeners, and I see it is going off to the right in the stream. So we'll keep you guys involved, and thank you as always for jumping on and being part of this show. Coming up today, we have predictions for Week 14. It's about me, and I have something to share about someone who deserves a little love. But before that, let's open the book. They threw the book at Sessler and said, "We're going to fix you." That Coldplay song, when you went into the can, Mark.
Yeah,
I just played that on loop. But I was thinking about the federal penitentiary system fixing you. When you come out, you'll be whole again.
Right.
Gwyneth Paltrow, not the dad Gwyneth Paltrow stuff. Mark in the can.
Scare me straight.
Let's do a TNF recap. A really funky, interesting TNF.
Rams have to go 98 yards without a timeout. 23 remaining, 15 seconds. Mayfield flings it left side, end zone. Caught! Wow! Caught by Van Jefferson! With 9 seconds remaining. Touchdown! LA! Mayfield, comma maker, the touchdown maker. I don't know if any of us woke up feeling dangerous, but we're all going to sleep feeling dangerous.
JB Long.
Love you, JB.
And
What a
look at Bonnetta
fantastic
with her
call.
Baker mug. The former Browns fan. And what a ride it's been. That is the voice of the Rams, JB Long, who nailed that call. JB's sometimes hard on himself because he holds himself to a high standard. But I'm sure he went to sleep not just feeling dangerous, but feeling really good. That he is very qualified and excellent at that job. Great call. Baker, what a bizarre career trajectory for Mayfield, the one-time savior of the Browns, and finally a solution to their quarterback room. Things fell apart in Cleveland. He goes to Carolina, washes out there, claimed on waivers earlier this week, and then basically plays the full game on Thursday night 2 days later after John Wolford strangely played one series. That was weird too. And the game was going as everyone expected it to go. Rams and the Raiders in total control, 16-3 late in the game, but 2 late touchdowns, including, yes, an absolutely memorable, forever memorable 98-yard drive cap by that Van Jefferson touchdown. Mark, I'll start with you. The Bakerness of it all made it even more exciting. And I'll throw it to you because I know no one was more invested in Baker as an NFL player than you. How did it feel watching him here?
Incredible. I mean, I think it goes beyond Baker, where like suddenly you remember why football is so unpredictable and bizarre in a wonderful way. I mean, 98 yards is the same length of drive that John Elway used to execute the Browns back in January of 97 in of a different magnitude. You essentially remove the Raiders from the AFC. That matters. But to watch Baker Mayfield do that after he went through, he flew to town on Tuesday. They said that he ran through a 10-play pass practice and a 10-run play practice with players he's never worked with an offensive line that's had 12 different combinations in 13 games, wide receivers he's never thrown to. That final drive, I mean, there was initially he throws the interception. It's removed by a pass interference. Max Crosby could have ended the game with that sack. You get a penalty on the Raiders on that. And then the big plays happen. And it's just like, I'm just watching it unfold. And for Baker itself, for him, the person, I mean, people have their strong feelings about Baker Mayfield. But to me, it was the example of a football player that's been doubted entirely. And we see this all the time with quarterbacks. His career essentially was written off. I mean, I think even on our Tuesday show, we talked about the fact he'll never be a starter again, and he'll never be anyone's backup potentially because of the personality side of it. And then 2 days later, he's executing the Raiders on national television. I don't think Sean McVay had any idea what was going on in terms of the scope of it. He's talked about afterwards, like, we didn't plan for that. I am literally, it's one of the football things where I'm at a loss for words because it's one of those sports moments where it's like, okay, that just happened. And he threw pinpoint passes after looking like a defunct quarterback in Carolina. I have no explanation. It's just one of the marvelous aspects to the NFL.
I want to hear Rachel on this because she was as big a Baker fan in Cleveland as I know outside of Marc Sessler, and she's listening to Mark just like as if he's telling a beautiful Christmas tale, like around the hearth, like Baker came and gave us the Christmas miracle Rachel was hoping for.
I feel like you make a lot of good points. Baker is like, and I know some people are going to like snicker at this, but I feel like Baker is the kind of person, when you just like meet somebody and you're like, oh, there's something about them. There's like a sparkle to them. There's just something different. And whether you're turned off by that sparkle, like the beer chugging, the smashing his head against everyone, please, sweet Jesus, stop doing that. It's very terrifying. But there's just something about him that just really, if you just let the feelings flow, you can really fall in love with the guy. And Mark, you were mentioning that he only went through 10 pass plays, 10 running plays. On top of all of that, he did that with dudes that probably don't really like him. Like Bobby Wagner was asked about him this coming week, and he's like, I don't want to talk about him. Like, if he's going to help our team, he's going to help our team, but otherwise I have nothing to say about him. Like, that's not really like, you know what? I like Baker, and I'm happy he's here. And you could kind of see, albeit he was headbutting people without a helmet, but you could kind of see people being like stay away from me. Like, there's still probably, I think it's safe to say, and I don't want to assume too much, but I think it's safe to say that the majority of players in the NFL probably don't like Baker Mayfield. Same with like the majority of people who watch NFL probably don't really like Baker Mayfield. Yet he comes into this situation, got there when he was, I don't know if you guys watched the post game, but he like asked earnestly, like, what time is it? And someone was just like 8:15. He's like, cool. I arrived at 7:15 on Tuesday. Like it is actually, it's one of the, I was watching and I was like looking around. I was like, this is why I love football. This is why I love football, is because crazy stuff like this can happen. The pressure of the world is on this guy's shoulders, even though we're all like, he came here on Tuesday. He's not going to do anything. And yet Sean McVay was happier winning that game than he was winning the Super Bowl. You could see it in his face.
He did not celebrate like that in February. He did not. I think it meant a lot to him.
Like that. That was like, I bet you there was a moment last night that he was like, that's why I came back. That's why I turned down the bajillion dollars to do television, was to win games like this with people like Baker Mayfield. Let those emotions just wash over you, buy in, because it is so much fun to cheer for this guy. I'm telling you.
And that's like enough. I don't know what's going to happen moving forward. I think that's an interesting part of the story, but I don't need it to be interesting.
Exactly.
Like last night was enough. The difference between McVay last night and his reaction in February is he didn't just have the most miserable 2.5 months of his life coming into February. He had been on top of the world since he entered the NFL, the most winning coach in the NFL other than Bill Belichick since he entered the league, and he was flying high, and that was amazing. It was all part of the story that Sean McVay had in his head. Losing 6 games seems like the most miserable thing he's ever had, and to be down 16-3 with 5 minutes to go, and we can go through all the million different things that had to happen for the Raiders to lose this game. Just the outpouring of emotion to go that low to that high that quickly is right. I think you guys hit it well, like why I love football, because it wasn't really about the stakes. You don't need to have a good game for it to be incredibly dramatic. Like you're not getting a regular season game in other sports 3 quarters into the season with similar stakes that can feel that emotionally exciting. And I'll remember it forever because I was out on the town doing some Christmassy stuff. We got Daddy Christmas, we call it, in the house on Saturday because my family's leaving town early. So we're out doing some Christmas stuff. We were at the Grove, go here and there, and we were actually listening to that call by JB Long. And you guys know my daughter Ellis is a massive fan, and so we were on our way back listening to it in the radio, and our car exploded with what happened, and we got into the car at the exact perfect spot. It was still 16-3, and to hear that comeback and hear the excitement in JB's voice, who we're friends with, like I'll never forget that. It really did a Christmas miracle.
It's been a long year for not just Sean McVay or Baker Mayfield. Everyone connected with the Rams, including JB Long. I mean, this is one of the worst title defenses we've seen in recent Super Bowl memory. So for them to have this kind of big fun moment in prime time, and Gravedigger called it on the text chain yesterday. The last game we saw in the NFL was a game where a team, the Saints, was comfortably ahead 16-3 late in the game and kept toying with their opponent instead of just putting them away. And they give up 2 late touchdowns in the last 5 minutes and lose 17-16. It's almost like a simulation, and it makes you wonder if this is even legit. I think the one thing, Rachel, I disagree with you on is Baker. I don't think had the pressure of the world on him. I think part of the reason
you might be right.
I think no one expected anything from him. In fact, it was basically disregarded that he could help the team in any way because he didn't even know the names of his teammates, let alone the playbook. And you just got to give him credit. It doesn't change how I feel about him as a player. I don't think he's any good, but I think there is something about Baker, and it's kind of ironic because I think it's the same thing with Odell. And they famously did not get along well in Cleveland together, but he does have that something that je ne sais quoi, as it were, that does separate him from other quarterbacks. And you could see that, like, they did a good job on the Amazon. Well, they didn't do everything well on the Amazon. I wasn't crazy about their post-game show, but they did a nice job flying up all the different tweets all across the sports spectrum of people just being, the Baker is the game doesn't necessarily match the name, but he is a name brand. And I think people do get excited watching him. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens next with that. And just before we should talk about the Raiders, because obviously I've been talking the Raiders as a team that could get back into the playoff race. That's over now. This is an unprecedented season of collapses. They are the first team since at least 1930 to lose 4 times in a season when leading by double digits at halftime. And that's an impossible game to lose. And Mark mentioned some of it. You had the INT, a beautiful punt, pins them at the 2-yard line. And the Rams don't have any timeouts. The game is over then. The only way to lose that game then is to literally hand the game to the other team. And they did this. They had an INT wiped away by a PI. It was the right call. A mindless Jerry Tillery penalty after the Crosby sack that instead of the clock running and the game being over essentially at that point, stops the clock and gives them a first down and 15 yards. And then Baker did say on the post-game show, I won't even mention they have 3rd and 1 with a chance to end the game, and they can't get a yard and leading to that punt. Baker on the postgame show says he could not believe that they're playing press coverage in that situation and not zone. And they end up leaving Van Jefferson on an island against the overmatched young cornerback. And it's just like, maybe it's not just bad luck. Maybe it's bad coaching. Maybe it's things here. There's a reason that they're in an unprecedented gag cycle, this Raiders team. So I think both sides of the story are incredibly compelling. Obviously Baker and the Rams side of it, and the Raiders having an unprecedented season.
Well, I think the Raiders emphatically announced to everyone observing the game, we aren't for real. And they're losing the close games they've lost. It all bakes into the coaching. It all has a lot to do with it. And like, I feel like with this team, they aren't the sum of their parts. That's bad coaching to me. When there are stars all over the Raiders and they simply don't show up. And I think to be on the bottom end of a game like last night is a perfect way for their season to end, because we went down the list of who they play between now and the end of the year. And the Rams game, we just have automatically they'll win that. And they might even beat the Niners, because the Niners have issues right now. It's like, forget all that. Handle your own business. They haven't handled their own business all year long.
Here's the thing, though, Mark. I think they could beat the Niners. I think this is a strange team.
That's fine.
But now it doesn't matter, though.
Team.
It doesn't matter because they didn't take care of their business.
No, and I don't. I think if you're honest with yourself, if you're a part of the Raiders organization, I'm not sure you have the right coach. We don't even know anything about the GM. I'm not sure you have the right quarterback, because Derek Carr to me is the same experience year after year after year. It doesn't matter who's around him. And like the fact that was a night for Devontae Adams to have one of his big games, and really what he ended up with 77 yards. It's like, you just got outclassed by a Rams team that has literally traveled through hell for 6 straight weeks and has had a quarterback on the roster for 37 hours and just executed you with 98 yards and a minute and a half to go. That's on you, Raiders.
What about the Colts loss too? Now, not only did they get beat by
with Jeff
the
Saturday.
guy, yeah, they get beat by the guy that's been in town for a day. They also got beat by the Jeff Saturday Colts. Like, I don't know how if you're ownership, you don't smell something foul going on with this team, but they'll have plenty of time to figure that out.
I feel like Derek Carr I always kind of like listening to his post-game press conferences, because he's either like crying or like saying he has interesting post-game press conferences. Like, I feel like he actually says something. I didn't even want to see it last night. It was like, Croatia and Brazil, that penalty shootout. Brazil just got kicked out of the World Cup. They're all crying on the ground. I'm like, get them off the field. I don't want to see this. I want to see the winners. I didn't even want to listen to it last night.
And
Max
yet
Crosby said after the game, he just feels bad for the fans. That's how he ended his long monologue on it. And that is, at least there's an ownership there that you just buried your fan base basically for 3 months straight this year.
I don't think Carr is going to be on this team. I'm confident Josh McDaniels will be back. I really think last night helped set up Tom Brady maybe getting there. That's getting ahead of ourselves. But it should not be forgotten. The game absolutely turned on one of the worst interceptions of the year by Derek Carr late in the first half. And that having known how the game is going to end and then getting to then rewatching and knowing all the things that had to happen for this to happen. I mean, that was the moment. It was just a play you're shocked Derek Carr made. And the Raiders, this game played into all their worst tendencies, which is, I think they're extremely safe. I think Josh McDaniels is extremely safe. I think Derek Carr is extremely safe. You can kind of see it that they never turn the ball over. Typically, they're among the best in the league at that. But you saw like they're running on 3rd and 5 to set up field goals. They're throwing little screen passes in the red zone on 3rd and 9 to set up field goals. And then Derek Carr makes that one big mistake. And you mentioned it, Dan, they couldn't get 1 yard either when they needed it in the fourth quarter. That was Bobby Wagner making some massive plays. He's been awesome. So he should get some love for darting in there and getting them the ball back. What a game.
Good for Al Michaels too, who I was really starting to feel bad for. I think he had a great line. He did a podcast recently, and I think he called, some of the schedule has been leaky, I think was the word he used. Did some leaky games this year. And this one was for most of it, and then it turned into one that everyone will remember forever. We got to check in now. Let's keep moving. It's the fun show. Let's check in with the viewers, listeners, whatever. John Case, I need to hear what Dan would do if Baker was a Jet next year. It's not going to happen. This is the one thing I'll say. Don't get sucked in by this performance and thinking Baker's a player. He's not. Christopher Townsend, Dan would absolutely loathe having Baker as a Jet. I think Dan would rather the Jets re-sign Darnold. You're damn right. You know I love Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold is not doing that last night, though. I'll tell you that much.
No, but he also doesn't get fired by every team he's on. Kyle Mollenkoff, was that performance enough to bring Baker back next season?
He's got four more weeks. Go ahead.
I want to say something. I think that when I said Baker has got the pressure of the world, maybe not the world, but it probably feels like that because he's probably put so much pressure on himself. And I just think for most human beings, like I was thinking, I was out and about for the first quarter and I was driving in my car and I was listening to the game and I was like, I hope that Baker sees a therapist. I hope that he is able to talk to somebody, besides our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ every single week, because he probably has all of this pressure on himself. And the fact that he's able to still come out and play football when the world hates him, I think is actually like a miraculous human feat, in my opinion.
And those passes weren't lucky. They were nice throws to Skwarnik early in the first half. They could have had more points if Akers didn't fumble it. But he's got 4 weeks to try to prove that he could come back next season. We don't know if Matthew Stafford's going to be back. He could be back to the Rams as a backup. But I almost think it doesn't matter. Reminded me a little bit of that Cam Newton game when he came back. And like for 1 week, it was just a great moment and great story. I don't need Baker to like turn this into a great second act for this game to be memorable.
Yeah, same.
What else we got? Our tickets sold out for the live show in January. Yes, the homecoming, ATN homecoming, January 18th at the Bourbon Room in Hollywood. Go to Ticketmaster. I don't think there's many left. So
no, we've been getting updates, and they're tracking toward being sold out probably before Christmas, but not sold out yet. So go get it.
How about a nice Christmas gift to your significant other in prison? One more question. Who has failed the preseason predictions more? Judy Elmore asks. The AFC West or the NFC West? Ooh, Mark.
Oh, I would say I would have to go AFC West because I think that the failure of the Denver Broncos is above anything else we've seen league wide. I mean, what we were thinking about the Broncos 4 or 5 months ago and what they are, no one saw coming. It is it's an absolute car crash of the highest nature.
Yep.
You know how the NFL didn't see it coming? Their centerpiece on Christmas Day, which last year I think was the most watched football day of the year, is Rams Broncos. So.
And Mark, I was going to say you weren't on the show yesterday, but the Mark bot really did fill in and really in an efficient manner. I would say it was like posting a passer rating of 110 to 120. And I said I had a similar thought that the Broncos and Russell Wilson's absurd struggles this year, to me, is the biggest surprise and one of the craziest storylines in the league this year. Just wild. All right. Hit it, Braver. All right, it's my turn. Ooh, give me that tambourine. Here's a quote. I feel like I'm playing the best football of my career right now. That's Jared Goff.
Ooh.
The date is January 21st, 2021, and the Lions sent Matthew Stafford, their franchise pillar, to the Rams in exchange for Los Angeles' first-round draft pick in 2022, 2023, a third-round pick in 2021, and quarterback Jared Goff. And at the time, Goff was a throw-in to make the trade make more sense, and the Lions took on the salary for Goff so the Rams could then make it work with Stafford and give him the big extension that he signed shortly thereafter, and nobody thought much of it beyond that. The whole everything after that trade was about the Rams going all in and the Lions doing their thing, maybe tanking and Goff sucking, while they tank, and then they go get their new quarterback in the draft. That hasn't happened, at least not yet, because the Lions have one of the best offenses in the NFC. And we're giving a lot of credit to offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, head coach Dan Campbell, the skill players there, the offensive line. Jared Goff, not so much. I don't hear a lot about Jared Goff and people crediting a man who, written off by the football world. We talk about writing off Baker. Everybody wrote off Jared Goff too, a guy that actually went to a Super Bowl. And right now he's projected this season, if he continues his production, to complete 65% of his passes for nearly 4,300 yards, 27 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, a passer rating near 96. Are those superstar numbers? No. But man, those are pretty good. And when you put him up, you see how he understands and runs one of the best offenses in the AFC. I think you gotta give him some love. Then there's things like this. Oh, Dan, you're just cherry picking this moment in time because they've won 4 or 5. Yeah, in his last 5 games, check him out. All the numbers are basically the same. The only thing that's changed during this winning run, he's not throwing interceptions. He hasn't thrown an interception in 4 games, which is the best run of his career. And when you look at what's going on with the salary, he makes $25 million. He's due to make $25 million each of the next 2 years, which you might say, whoa, that's weird. That's too much. That's gross. Well, next year, Aaron Rodgers is going to make $59.5 million. Deshaun Watson, who's behind him, will make $46 million. Mahomes, $40 million. Goff makes a very manageable salary for a quarterback in the range of what Carson Wentz makes with the Commanders. So I find Goff's success strangely underplayed this season. I think the Lions are in a very similar boat to the Seattle Seahawks. They both have high draft picks coming from blockbuster trades where they can go get a quarterback, but both might want to think about maybe keeping the guy in-house and then using that trade either to take on another big-time talent in the top 5, or if there's a team desperate enough for it, a quarterback loading up with a Godfather-type deal and getting multiple picks in return for a team that needs a quarterback. So, Jared Goff, who feels like he's playing the best football of his career, I see you, buddy. I hope that counts for something. Thank you.
I love it.
Let's put him back on another Hard Knocks or All or Nothing.
But we don't need to do that. That's
We
the
don't
one
need that.
we do not need to do.
Now, come on. I want
You
to see
get
what
the
kind of
vote.
like chipping setup he has in Detroit, like a little golf.
And the
setup.
Lions, by the way, if you remember early in the season when everything was going to hell, Campbell kind of called out Goff and said he needs to play better, and he absolutely has. And Greg, I know we've talked about Goff. I brought him up a little bit this year, and there's usually some pushback from you. I'm not saying that he's a star quarterback, but it is just interesting to think about it. If you take a step back, if you have a quarterback that's a relative bargain and the offense is running with this efficiency, like, is that something you want to mess with in the attempt to find something better in the great unknown? It's a decision, I think, for Detroit.
No, I don't think you do. I think $25 million is a good deal, and I think it puts them in a perfect spot. Their rebuilding effort, especially if they can win a few more games here, is perfect because I think you keep Jared Goff, and if you do like a quarterback that high, you do probably take him. And at some point, he's going to play, but you're not going to need to feel the need to play him right away, especially when you're trying to make the playoffs.
I think Goff is like the perfect transitional quarterback for the Lions, where if you draft someone top 5, whatever, and a top 10, and Goff is the kind of guy is going to be a good mentor and friend to a younger quarterback, which doesn't happen with Aaron Rodgers and other people. We know that. And you don't have to start someone else week 1. You can have Goff in there for another full season. Like, I think he's also, if you look at like Football Outsiders has certain metrics on these guys, like his production has been absolutely off the charts over what they would have expected for Goff. So it's been he's, I think, like Baker's thing is like a micro, like what happened with Baker last night is a small little like advertisement for his career. But what Goff's done this season is like, yes, he could be someone else's starter. He could be the Lions starter. He certainly has extended his career by years and years by what he's done, I think.
But if you take a step back and take like a broader look at things, like I feel like Goff is playing great, but not that I didn't like him before, but he has really gained like a lot of respect from me because think about what he's been through the last few years. We all live in Los Angeles, and no shade to Detroit. Detroit's a really cool city. Lots of good things about it. It's cold there right now. It's freezing cold. Could you imagine any of us packing our bags and moving to Detroit right now after living in sunny, beautiful Los Angeles?
Rachel hitting them with the cold take in Detroit.
And he's a California boy.
I can say this. And then to leave and then have your team, who you probably love and have a lot of relationships on, go and win a Super Bowl after you leave, and then to go to Detroit, who is like known for not being great the past few years. I really have a lot of respect for him right now for doing what he's done.
And I reached out to the research department, guys, because I'm a pro. Hey, can you give me some Goff nugs? Because I want to gas them up on the Friday show. And they very quickly, Ben McWilliams got back with some Goff nugs. He is one of only 3 players to have multiple games with 4 touchdown passes this season. Mahomes, Allen are the other 2. His passer rating and yards per attempt are both best since 2018. That was the Super Bowl year, I believe, with the Rams, or maybe the year before. And Greggy, help me out with this one. Jared Goff has 17 passing touchdowns at home this season, most in the NFL. Where do the Lions play against the Vikings this weekend?
In Detroit. That's why we're all about the Motor City Kitties, and I drafted him first overall.
The team of ATL. All right, let's check back in with the listeners before we get to our predictions. Saboteur. Desmond Ritter's promotion to starter means that Mark will not have to do a show shirtless. Oh, damn it.
Forgot about that.
But that doesn't mean he can't do it anyways. That's true.
Well, I will not.
Only a couple more buttons left.
I think everyone wins with the result of that proposition.
That is true. You're down 3 buttons there, buddy.
What?
That collar right now is flirting with
That's how I always wear this shirt.
NC-17.
The great thing about doing remote broadcasts is like no one has to know how the shirt smells. It's not been washed in like quite some time.
Oh, come on. You don't have to go there.
Well, listen.
Well, I'm just being honest.
You're in jail. All right, what else?
Yeah.
You're in jail for a reason.
Peter's CSM question: how does Mark like the Sunday games Neil and Graver selected for him? Yes, of course. If you missed the Thursday show, amortize it if you've missed it. Neil jumped in from Sky Sports. Great job. Great bloke, that Neil Reynolds. And did you see what games you have, Mark?
I believe I had San Francisco and Tampa Bay, which I quite enjoy. The rest escape. I don't recall what the others were.
All right, so that means
I think I had Dallas, Houston. So I love that because
we knew you'd love that.
There's a blowout potential, which
and you got Eagles, Giants. I actually think he took exactly the games that you would have taken in the spot. They did a great job. A dedicated listener.
That guy gets it. How about Nick Dugan? Is this the biggest Lions game since their last playoff game? Rach.
Because Caldwell was trying to save his job, and they were above 500, trying to make the playoffs 5 years ago. Those were big games, but the biggest game since then.
Right. Do the Lions have to win out? Do they have to win every single game that they have on the slate now? Or can they drop?
I think they could lose one more, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, if they won out, they'd get in most likely. If they lost one more, then who knows? 9-8 could get in the NFC.
It puts an immense amount of pressure on them to basically run the table if they can't win this game. And also, yeah, there's tiebreaker stuff. This is an NFC matchup that affects things as well. Got to go get this dub. Need it.
I also feel like so many people are like Lions or the Vikings are frauds. Like so many people want to see the Lions take, and the Lions are favored by last time I checked it was 2. I don't know if it's gone up to 2.5 or anything, but. Like Josh Duhamel, I was seeing tweets from Josh Duhamel, famous person, Vikings fan. Oh, and he was not happy that the Lions were favored.
They are, you know what? I kind of get it. I would feel the same way, honestly, that they are in their feelings about everybody not buying in on them. But just how about you just enjoy being 10-2? Udi Sneeder, 60% G, is also doing the 60% listening and 40% reading the comments. Is that true?
I have been reading the comments. I've also been making sure I have all the last-minute injury updates ready.
All right, good transition.
Beautiful.
By the man they call the boss, and now it is time, ladies and gentlemen, for the Gregg Rosenthal Week 14 Injury Minute presented by Acrisure, faith-based adult diaper.
Trevor Lawrence was back at practice on Friday, which makes it sound like pretty hopeful we will start, and we're not going to get that game ruined by CJ Beathard. Saquon Barkley is weirdly sounding like a game time decision. I mean,
I don't like next stuff, Greggy. I don't like next stuff.
I know. If I'm a fantasy owner, he did finish last week, which is usually a good sign, but that's worrisome. Leonard Fournette's out of practice. It's early. We don't know why. There's a lot of illness going around. Kenneth Walker and DJ Dallas both out of practice for the Seahawks. I'm thinking like they're trending towards not playing. Nico Collins and Derek Stingley are out for the Texans. Just figure the Texans should get a mention every once in a while. Mike Williams has been upgraded to a full participant. That is huge news for the Chargers. Nice. It really does sound like he'll be back. Cortland Sutton out most likely after missing practices for the Broncos. Jerry Jeudy probably in. Hayden Hurst, who's been good for the Bengals, is likely out after missing practices. Rondell Moore is likely out after missing practices for the Cardinals, which is a bummer. We've still never seen all the Cardinals receivers together. Treylon Burks still in the concussion protocol. Deontay Johnson and TJ Watt have been missing practice for Pittsburgh, so keep an eye on that. Watt seems a little more hopeful. Matt Milano might be a game time decision. Kadarius Toney's back at practice for the Chiefs. Christian Darrisaw's in the concussion protocol still, but is practicing, so he's got a chance for the Vikings. And then finally, one last little bit of thing I found interesting. They're not putting Jimmy Garoppolo on injured reserve, which to me says a lot, and I think says they're hopeful that it's possible. They're keeping a roster spot open for him to return in the playoffs there. That's nice.
Wow, that's going to be insane.
Isn't it cute? Isn't it easy to imagine Greggy, who's loyal to football, waking up in the morning and legitimately in a passionate way going through the injury reports because he just wants to know what's going on. And like it excites him, even just going through the injury report and getting ready for the week to come. Usually if someone's doing an injury update, you don't feel that. But when Gregg does it, you do. That's a guy that's excited.
Also, you guys play really hopeful music, and you're just like talking about people who are in like concussion protocols.
Yeah, the music's a little out of tune, but I think Gregg is sort of building a resume to be, when this all melts away, a really wonderful sort of AM sports radio guy that comes in and gives you sort of a 2020 flash kind of vibe,
True.
Like
Someone did say in the comments that it's time for you to point the microphone toward you when you talk. That's a little broadcasting tip, but otherwise you did great.
We've been moving this desk around. We've had some changes in the bedroom. Still taping out of my bedroom. All right.
Tell us more about the changes in your bedroom.
Please
don't. Just somewhere certain things.
Please don't.
Okay. All right, let's get into it. Fearless prediction times. Before we move to Sunday, we'll let you know what we think happens. Rach Face.
I get to go first?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This weekend, I think that our guy, Derek Carr, no, he's not playing. Okay. I think that he hits up Twitter and he sees people arguing about if Die Hard is a Christmas movie. He says, I've never watched Die Hard.
Enough.
So he turns it on. Hold on. I'm going somewhere with this. He turns it on. Okay. He decides it's not a Christmas movie. But when he goes to bed that night, he has no less than 3 dreams where Baker Mayfield is Hans Gruber and Derek Carr is Bruce Willis as John McClane. And also the Jets beat the Bills.
Oh, okay.
You saved it.
No, I like
prediction.
that. There's no way that anyone can prove it didn't happen.
Exactly.
Greggy.
I'm making mine simple. I feel it strong. We're going to see a 40 burger from the Dolphins on Sunday night in a big win. It's just going to kind of be the end of these Chargers and the Dolphins, reminding everyone it was one bad week. We're going to embarrass this Chargers team.
Greggy, I should point out, everybody, I wasn't on the show last week, but everybody got their predictions wrong. You came so close. You said that Joe Burrow would throw 3 touchdowns and a Bengals win. And Ty Boyd dropping that wide open, maybe the drop of the year with Christian Watson cost you the prediction. Look at this.
The spirit of it was right, though. I got the spirit right. And so did Rachel. On game debut, we both had the Bengals winning. It was a nice W for Rachel.
And Graver, I feel like it's unnecessary for you to, and I know you're doing your job. Our predictions record is 11.5 out of 58.
Absurd.
That percentage isn't great. I'll go next. I believe that Deshaun Watson is going to be an absolute mess against the rolling Bengals, who force Watson into multiple turnovers, let's say 3 turnovers at the minimum, in a double-digit loss. There will be some calls to return Jacoby Brissett to the lineup, and don't worry about that. But Watson will enter Week 15 feeling some pressure to appear somewhat like the superstar QB the Browns sold their soul for.
Love that. I'm with you.
Marc Sessler.
Lock it up.
All right, I have a 4-pack of probably utterly doomed predictions because I'm one of the big reasons we're 11.5 wins out of 58. But Davis Mills, out of effing nowhere, looks like a mixture of 1990 Jim Kelly and young Elvis mixed into one as the Texans nip the Cowboys in a Lone Star State stunner. Prediction number 2, Brock Purdy throws 3 touchdowns, but also 3 interceptions versus the Bucks. Rachel Bonnetta will meet somebody on Saturday who will change her life. And our 4th prediction, a coach will be fired by the start of our Tuesday show. Lock it up.
Change my life in a good way or change my life in a bad way?
I can't see beyond
Mark,
just
come on,
not probably.
you
I mean, I
can't
think
put
that would be probably good. I would
I would
imagine.
say just to the risk, it feels like a coin flip, Rachel. I would say just lock your doors and stay under the covers.
Hold on, what if I get another email from somebody, from a member of the jail society?
Be open to it. Be open to it.
All right. Thank you to everybody for checking in all the content this week. And, Rachel Bonnetta, check out her podcast, Benched with Bonnetta, which is excellent. Gravedigger is the producer on that joint as well. All her NFL Network stuff. And then we'll be back Sunday with the flagship show. Anybody have any parting words?
We love you all.
Thank
you.
Everyone stay away from me on Saturday.
Sunday night. Lock those doors. Heed the call.